Welcome, my beautiful T1D community. My name is Kimberly. Today, I have the great honor to be with certified health coach Melissa Slemp. She is a fellow type 1 diabetic for 38 years. Talk about having firsthand experience, right? Melissa has dedicated her life's work in supporting others in choosing delicious foods, losing weight, and managing their blood sugar. She is the author of an e-guide called The Blood Sugar Guide. Today, we will be discussing her personal journey in living with type 1, and here are some of her tips for keeping our immune system healthy and strong during the time of COVID-19, and also managing our blood sugar during this holiday season. Melissa works with both type 1 and 2 diabetes, as well as pre-diabetic conditions. Make sure you check out Melissa. She's got a great Instagram page called Blood Sugar Boss. That's how I discovered her. She's got great information, great recipes, and it is my pleasure to welcome Melissa. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Kimberly. This is so exciting. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I so enjoyed some of our conversations leading up to this. It feels so nice to be with a fellow type 1 supporter and someone who really understands the disease. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a good example how diabetes can bring people together.
Exactly. So let's share with everybody, when were you first diagnosed?
Well, many years ago. You had mentioned 38 years ago, so I was 14, almost 15, and what a time that was. It came from left field, and I had the classic symptoms.
Yes.
That we hear about. So that's definitely something. And in hindsight, at the time you're going through, you don't really realize what those symptoms are.
So you had like frequent urination and being very thirsty and losing weight?
Yeah, I remember the glass of water was by the bedside every night, which, again, you look back and, that's obviously a habit that's not usual, or normal. So.
Yes. So you were a teenager. And I know teenage years can be quite challenging for any teen, whether we have type 1 or not, with, peer pressure and also just the hormonal surges. So what were your teen years like with type 1?
That's, and this was a time, this was in 1982 when I was diagnosed. So again, this was pre-internet. We learned everything from magazines or encyclopedias even, right? That's how we learned and taught ourselves in school. So there wasn't a community. There wasn't much support. I can remember I felt very isolated, felt very like I was the only one, because there wasn't that communication among even my peers or the people I was, that I had in my life. So I kept it to myself, unfortunately.
Wow, that's a big burden to hold. How did your peers treat you?
Many of them didn't know. Again, I hid it, and I'm ashamed to say that now. And I think we're in a time now where things are obviously more, the education's out there, the information's out there. People are talking about all diseases. So the familiarity of it, it's making it much more, conversational. So no,
exactly.
Like I said, it was definitely something that I kept to myself, unfortunately, and I didn't even give a chance to really share it with other people. I kind of downplayed it.
Yeah, that would make sense, because I'm curious though, were your parents involved in your care, or were they not so involved?
They weren't that involved, and it was, I can't explain it, but it was obviously something they were aware of. I grew up with two brothers as well, and it was something that we knew, we were all aware of it, but there wasn't a whole lot of attention or really focus on it. I don't think we took it serious enough. So
did any mentor at all during the way that kind of was a turning point for you?
I sure did not. I did not.
Wow, so you're a living example of really mastering this.
Yeah. I mean, for many years, I was very isolated, and it took many years before I even met another type 1.
Again, and what was that like for you?
Oh, amazing, right? Because you feel like connection. It's like, oh my gosh, because again, you feel like you're the only one on the island. So yeah, when you can open up and share stories, and I think at that point, when it's so much years later, when you're not used to talking about it, it's like, where do you start, right? So where does the
Yes.
conversation start when you're not used to talking about it?
So can I assume with not a whole lot of, support and you kind of being alone working with this, that your blood sugars probably weren't managed? And I'm curious if that was the case. Did you have any complications or did you have any hospitalizations?
Kimberly, I sure did. Again, in those days, testing our blood sugar was done with ketone strips.
Yes.
I didn't even own a glucometer, so I was managing blindly, really. I mean,
God bless you.
Yeah, and I was always active, and I think that's what maybe helped a little bit, because obviously, as we know, exercise helps to burn blood sugar. And I ate just okay. I didn't know really anything about food like I do nowadays, so I was just kind of humming along for those first 10 years. Yep. And then when I hit 24, almost 25, is when I got the eye floaters, which is basically the blood vessels in the back of the eye rupture, and that is from continuous high blood sugar. So the damage had taken place with my vessels. So yeah, complications. So that got me to the eye doctor. Again, first time to the eye doctor as well. So again, their checkups weren't being done regularly.
Yep.
And yeah, that was my wake-up call. So 25, newly married, and I got that glucometer. Imagine that, right?
Yes.
I took it seriously and started to check my sugar, and really, really got into really understanding food a lot more. Because they told me I could go blind if I continued with the care I was doing at that age. That I could lose my eyesight.
Unbelievable. I mean, talk about a wake-up call. Like literally being told that you could lose your vision. I can't imagine. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, was that an impetus for you to get your coaching license, or?
Yeah, I was only mid-20s then. I had studied finance in school, so I was kind of in more of the corporate environment working, but I've always had an interest in health. So I think that kind of propelled me to start taking care of myself, realizing what was going to help me better control my blood sugar. And yeah, that inspired me, and it continues to inspire me, and I continue to learn. I don't know everything, but and that's another big thing too. I think when we're taking care of ourselves and our diabetes, it's a very individual day-to-day treatment, and no 2 days are alike, and no 2 diabetics are alike.
So, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even with my daughter, I can see how some months or weeks can be a certain way, and then we try something new, and it either works or it doesn't. So yes. Do you wear the pump? I'm curious.
No, and I think it surprises people. Again, 38 years of injections. No, and I've never worn a pump. It's been talked about. A few doctors over the years have suggested it, but
yes,
been able to manage a really good A1C for many years. So it's like my motto is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, the CGM is amazing. So that's one thing I have attached to me. But I guess, to be honest, I really didn't want anything attached to me. The whole pump system. So I think that's really the reason I kind of veered away from it, and knowing that I could handle, with the insulin pens they have now are just, gosh, amazing, convenient. They stay at room temperature. The convenience is there.
I agree that a lot of people like the technology, and the CGM has been the biggest life-changing thing in our lives. I mean, the security you have at knowing what your blood sugar is at any time. And even people that wear the pump often take a pump break, and they use that pen and that.
Yes. The N pen is the one that I'm using. There's a couple different varieties out there as far as different ways to carry it, but that's the one that we just started.
What is your current A1C? I'm just curious.
5.8 was my recent one.
Amazing. Yeah, so what is your secret? I mean, you mentioned blood sugar, you mentioned nutrition. I know this is probably like hours of conversation in terms of managing blood sugar, but do you have one thing or two things that you can share with everyone out there that you feel is essential at keeping your blood sugar managed? I know you said exercise, curious.
We talk about, and this is a lot of the things that I coach. So these habits are things that I live. I mean, and it's in routine. I know a lot of people don't like the word routine, and preparing yourself. So knowing ahead of time, having the right foods with you, obviously having your insulin with you, starting your day off with a good blood sugar, because sometimes that can trail off into a day that's harder to manage. So it is about thinking ahead and planning and preparing. Diet, exercise, and the CGM. The CGMs are really, the continuous glucose monitors are such a gift, because just knowing our numbers and how food and stress and exercise impact those numbers and learning from that information. So that's so important, because you take that data.
Yes.
And if we're smart, we use that information. We don't ignore it. We can positively react to it and, to change whatever needs to be changed.
Yes, I agree. And like you said, it's owning it and taking responsibility and planning. So I want to ask a quick question about breakfast. Do you have a food combination that seems to work really well to start your day, like proteins versus carbohydrates? Do you have something that you might want to share, or maybe even a recipe that you love eating every day that keeps you going?
Yes. And, breakfast, I think for everybody, but especially with diabetes, and, our cortisol levels rise in the morning. So that's naturally giving us a little bit of a boom in our blood sugar.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of times people are high in the morning. Yeah.
Right. So that's something that we're usually starting with anyway. So that's why it's so important to start the morning with, with more protein and healthy fats. So for instance, a bagel, a piece of toast, cereal, all those things that are just going to be really instant sugar and really hard to get that essential control when you're starting your day. So one of our favorites is chia seed pudding, and it's one of the recipes that I share. It's on my website and on my blogs. And because the chia seed is it's a seed that is full of omega-3 fatty acids. So again, it's balanced. It's got the protein and the fiber, and we put in some berries, which again, it's a low glycemic fruit that we can enjoy. So we can enjoy fruit when we're diabetic, when we have blood sugar control.
Yes.
And we usually add some protein powder, some cinnamon, maybe some butter. So it's very satiating.
Sounds yummy.
Yeah, really good. And our blood sugar loves it. Our body loves it. Our energy loves it. So it's win-win-win all the way around. Yeah.
Sounds amazing. And it sounds like it's very filling too, right? Mm-hmm. It keeps you full for a while. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Melissa, is it true that your husband also has type 1?
He does. And you've been hearing me say we a lot, haven't you? So
I'm curious, is Dave in the house? Can he come and say hello to us?
Sure, yes. I would love for you to meet him.
Hello.
Hi, Dave.
How you doing?
Wow, what a beautiful couple you are.
Oh, thank you so much.
Wow. How long have you guys been married?
7 years. Yeah.
So what is it like being married, two of you in the house with type 1? What is it like?
It can be very helpful because we kind of know, and as a medic, I worked in the field of helping diabetics a lot. So, picking up on signs of maybe a low or a high and being able to help with that.
Yes.
And understanding what the other person's going through. So it definitely has some benefits. You just hope both your blood sugars aren't going low at the same time.
Right. No, sounds like it's a nice supportive role that you both play, and you both understand, obviously, the disease, and you probably understand each other and have been able to help each other.
Yes. And we both definitely agree on eating healthy, exercising, good rest, hydration. All those things really help with having a more balanced day.
It's amazing. Well, you both look super healthy, I have to say. How did you guys meet?
Well, as a medic, I had an emergency call to Melissa by her daughter, where she was so low and her daughter was young at the time, and they were in a car. So I had to go there and start an IV and give her some B50 and get her blood sugar up and almost really wake her back up. And
I'm getting chills. Oh my goodness.
And as a diabetic myself, I had sympathy for all diabetic patients that I would help. but that, we talked about that, and I always would try to give information to diabetics I'd go to on ways that can maybe help them with, lows or the family being able to pick up on it, just education, because that can come on very quickly, as most diabetics know.
Yes. Yes, it can come on so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So you are literally a knight in shining armor.
Oh, thank you.
Like, really? Oh my gosh.
Definitely meant to be.
Melissa, I had no idea. That's very profound. Oh my gosh. What a courageous story and a beautiful story. Look at the happy ending here.
Yeah. And then actually she came to my church, and then we met at church, and then developed a relationship, after seeing each other at church. She took a CPR class that I teach, and to better her, being able to help people if somebody were to, go into cardiac arrest. So yeah, that was a good thing also.
Right. Amazing. Oh my gosh, amazing. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
So let's talk about some current events. We're in the midst of the coronavirus. What are some words of wisdom that you can share with our type 1 community about the coronavirus?
Yes, really timely. And as we know, as people living with chronic disease, our immune systems are typically weaker, just based on all of the other medical challenges that we may be having. So it's even more important for us to keep our immune systems tip top, right? In the best shape. And I always say, and again, these are things that I coach and help others. These are the things I remind people to do, and things that we have to remind ourselves to do, and that's staying hydrated, eating a lot of really good nutritious food, because we've got to get those vitamins and minerals from the food to help keep our immune system in really good shape.
Yes.
Really good quality sleep, exercise, community support, big believer in that, because again, we need to be able, and I think now is especially, it's an amazing time, because I've been in contact with some diabetics in other communities that I'm associated with, and they're feeling very isolated. So it's even more of a time that we really need to reach out on any level, whether that's phone calls, Zoom calls, FaceTime, or whatever. But we really need each other to talk with, and maybe even get out and take a safe walk in the neighborhood. But yeah, we need people for that support now more than ever. It's easy to get on that slippery slope where we start to let go of, taking care of ourselves, and then that fear of the flu or the virus. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I know a lot of children or teens that aren't even going to school because they're choosing to be remote, and over time that does takes a toll on you. Not being able to see peers in person and things like that. So no, I agree that community support is important. Just whoever's out there that needs the support. I like to always mention DMP is that great app out there that has thousands of type 1 diabetics and type 2 diabetics that connect. Almost every day there's a live stream, and it's a great way to meet people. So when I think of prevention, certainly I think of fruits. And I've always thought fruits are typically used when someone is low, or to treat a low. Can you speak to that? Because some people might shy away from doing, like, I don't know, oranges or things like, things that have a lot of vitamins or antioxidants, because they're afraid that the blood sugar is going to go high, spike.
Understood. Yeah. Fruit, and I mentioned this with the chia seed pudding, as berries, citrus fruits. Again, it's all about eating the real food, because we don't want to be going down, the fruit juice aisle, because we all know that's usually what we drink to treat a low. So it's not something that we want to depend on to get our nutrients from. There's obviously some fruits like melons and figs, raisins. They tend to be a little higher in sugar, so it's really getting to know what fruits are better. And kind of think of some others. I know pineapple tends to be a little sweeter.
Yes.
And even bananas. Bananas is something you definitely have to watch portion control on bananas, or kind of mixing some protein in there to kind of offset the rise. But we can definitely enjoy fruit. And again, along with everything that we eat, when it comes to measuring carbs, it's portion control. So you got to get used to what it looks like, how much you can eat in order for it to serve your body without jeopardizing your blood sugar. So
Yes, yes. Any supplements, vitamins, minerals that you think are important to take extra amounts of or use supplements?
you know, one vitamin many people are low in, even myself here in Florida, is vitamin D. I supplement for vitamin D, and that is it's very impactful for our immune system. So, and that's not something it's not really talked about as much, because we definitely hear about vitamin C.
Yes.
Zinc is another really good one. You know, I think the best thing we can do is, especially as diabetics, because we are going to the doctor, getting our A1C and those numbers checked, and doctors should be running a full panel, at least, I would say at least twice a year, just to get the full panel of where all your vitamin mineral levels are, and see if there's any deficiencies, and see what might need to be supplemented. But again, if we eat real whole food, a lot of those vegetables and the fruits have what we need. But supplementing is always something, to consider too, if there are deficiencies, and that's something you definitely talk to your doctor about to see how you can fill it in. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm curious what your thoughts are about the flu shot and also about the pending vaccination for COVID-19.
Right. That's a very personal decision for people, and that's definitely that's a conversation that people with diabetes have with their doctors to see if whether or not they're in that category to get those shots, and I support that. Again, that's definitely, I would say, going into what we're, what we're in the middle of right now, it might be safer for somebody with a compromised immune system, and if their blood sugars are not in the control that they need to be for optimal health, then these vaccines are probably going to be an option for them, definitely.
Right. Yes. So we're in the midst of the holiday season. Do you have a go-to favorite holiday dessert or holiday, I should say, snack, a favorite of yours that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, and I just sampled making a batch of this week, or I should say a loaf of it. But I had this recipe for a banana pumpkin bread that is really, really good. And it's, anything with pumpkin, right? It reminds you of the fall and the harvest and this time of year. And it's, it's amazing. And that's another recipe I have available. So if anybody's interested, I can connect them to the recipe. And it's all about ingredients, I think, because I love to bake. And what I've done over the years is I've taken recipes that that you find or that you're familiar with, and I recreate them with healthier ingredients.
Yeah, give us some examples. I love what you were telling me before about flour.
Yeah, definitely. So the all-purpose flour is it's basically going to turn to sugar in your body, just the way that it's created, and the quality of that flour is not something even our body needs. On the other hand, there are some other, and they're gluten-free, like the almond flour, the cassava flour. Those are really, really good. They actually have vitamins and minerals in them, and they have protein in them, lower in carbohydrates. So it's a better foundation of your recipe, right? So if you're going to choose something that's going to be flour-based, which would typically tip our blood sugar in the upwards direction. So this is a better flour to choose for recipes. And then it's about adding in other healthy ingredients, some healthy fats like a coconut oil, maybe some coconut sugar, using less coconut sugar than, say, the recipe calls for. Especially the recipe I mentioned with the pumpkin and the banana. See, those are naturally sweet fruits.
Yes.
And, the sweetness lies in just the natural state that they are in. So take advantage of that rather than relying on, the granulated sugar.
They taste just like regular flour desserts. Does it taste good? I'm assuming it does.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been baking a long time, so I've had a chance to kind of figure that out as far as, one against the other. And we don't see any difference. My husband and I, we definitely enjoy eating and enjoying it.
Sounds like it's a no-brainer. If it's healthier for you and it tastes good, everyone should be doing it. Really? Yeah. Wow. Really. Do you have any advice? A lot of times holiday seasons mean more parties, bigger meals, gatherings. Maybe not so much this year, but in general. What do you do to prepare for a night where there's going to be more foods, maybe more alcohol? Is there anything that you can recommend?
It's a great question. And, that goes back to the planning that I mentioned before.
Yes.
Definitely have a plan before you go.
Yes.
Hydrate that day. You maybe drink even twice as much water as you normally would. Again, hydration is going to help if you decide to have alcohol later that night.
Yes.
And this may sound funny, but we actually eat before we go.
You do?
Yeah, because my husband and I, we are big on vegetables, and we eat a lot of salads and vegetables. So maybe an hour or two before is when we will eat our nutritious,
Yep.
kind of clean, something to have before dinner, or maybe it's a light dinner, whatever you call it.
Yes.
But, and that's a good way to obviously to get the nourishment in for the day. And
Yes.
It's also a good way to not walk into a party hungry, right?
Yes.
So, and again, it's about planning and to definitely have your, to be in tune with what your blood sugar is that day. Getting exercise on that day. It sounds like a busy day, doesn't it?
It does. But I hear what you're saying. That's why lifestyle in general always is important, right? Yeah.
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 Especially on those things that are a little bit out of routine. When we're going to a party. When we walk in, and parties, there's food everywhere. Is to be very select. I always kind of go around the whole area. I see what's there.
Yes.
And I mindfully pick what I really, really, really want to have that night. And that's what I put on my plate. So it's something maybe different. Maybe it's something I haven't had in a while. So, and just to treat yourself. And again, it's portion control. So yeah, so it's about being mindful rather than just going around a buffet or whatever the food is available and picking everything, thinking that you have to taste everything. So yeah, it's about planning and
really good advice. Often in our family, we have sort of ranges where we say when you go out, start off at say this number. Or if you do sports, we say start off at least 200. Do you have something like that where you look at your blood sugar and you think it's a good idea to begin at a certain number, not too high, not too low? Is there something like that you guys do?
Yeah, definitely. And again, the CGM's a great help with this. But, we try to keep ours between 100 and 150. Again, maybe taking a bolus before we eat. So it's all about the timing of having insulin on board, knowing that we're going to be eating maybe a little more carbohydrates than normal, so that we're not, our blood sugar's not rising when we're trying to be, we're at a party trying to enjoy ourselves. So, yeah, it's all about just paying attention to all of the data that we have.
Yes.
Decision
And you mentioned something important that I just want to spend a tiny bit more time on, the importance of pre-bolusing before you eat. Can you speak to that? We always have a rule we try and enforce. My daughter's pretty second nature. 15 minutes before any meal, you must give yourself insulin because it takes that long for insulin to begin to become active in the body.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
And I know some pumps do give you that information as far as what insulin you have on board. And the InPens that we use actually has that same tool that we can refer to. So, yeah, and it's all about counting those carbs, that you're planning to eat and making a plan to get those, whatever those units you need to cover it ahead of time. Yeah, it's always better to get it on board ahead of time. Because you don't want to chase because we don't want to chase our food with insulin. It's better if the timing of it is right there at the same time, definitely.
Yes, because like we all know, when we're not managed, it can go into the next day, 24 hours later, where you're up and down and all around, and you feel terrible. You make poor choices. Right. So yeah, really starting off strong and manage sounds, obviously it's the key. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm trying to avoid that roller coaster.
Yes.
Blood sugar roller coaster, right? Yeah.
So let's see. Knowing what you know now in all the 38 years, is there some real big, pearl of wisdom that you want to share with people out there?
Yeah, I've had a lot of years. I've definitely had some times where, you have those days where, you have this why me, why is this happening? That frustration can happen anytime. Yeah. I think it's important to look at all the things that we do have access to, the things that we can control, that can positively impact how we manage our diabetes. That's diet and exercise, those habits. And to try to turn, I mean, I've done this. I've turned a negative into a positive, being able to share with others to better manage it. So I think attitude and mindset is a huge part. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just to try to, and to be gentle with yourself, because it's okay to have those bad days. It's okay to say, it's okay to express that too. I don't think that's something that we should have kept inside. We need to talk to people, reach out to community. Yeah, just to try to stay in that positive mindset. Yeah.
Yes. So Melissa, I know that you have a lot of great programs out there for type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Everything from blood sugar management to weight loss. And one of the ones that I think is important right now because of the coronavirus is your program that's called the 5 Keys to Immune Health.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, and those are the habits that I mentioned earlier, and I think this is going to help all of us. And these are things that we're used to doing, but maybe we're not really fine-tuning them. So what I did was the initial program kind of introduces you to these 5 steps to kind of build and strengthen that framework. And then I have I've got a couple other guides and a membership community that actually takes you through each step so that you can really put a plan in place. So it's taking action steps on those habits. Because again, a lot of us, we know that, these are things we need to do, but it's like, where do I start? What do I do? How do I do it? So that's how I help. I put that plan around it and help guide them. And it is about the support, continuing to keep support in your life, and hydration, rest, exercise, and diet.
Right. With this program, is there accountability where you ask people to check in every day? Is it something like that? Or
Yes. Yes, I'm glad you asked. Yeah, but the membership, exactly. It has questions. It has follow-up questions just so that you can check in with where you are and what you're doing. And it's connected to my Facebook group. It's a free Facebook group. So that's, again, a supportive community where you can check in. And this is, again, to hold yourself accountable. And it's great to support others. So, again, there's that support. So you know that you're not doing this alone. You have others to lean on. And, of course, I'm inside the group there, too. And once a month, I do a Zoom live with them. So it's a Q&A inside Zoom. So that's another way to bring people together and see where they are and what they need that extra push on.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. Melissa, oh my gosh, thank you. You speak eloquently, very clearly, a lot of information people can really grasp. And I so encourage everyone to check you out on Blood Sugar Boss. A lot of different programs, a lot of great recipes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly. Yes, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate being a part of it.
And in the new year, we're going to be doing some live streams together on the beginning of January. So I encourage everyone to keep looking at Instagram. We're going to be putting out some advertisements so you guys can tune in. Melissa's going to be doing a lot of live streams, and I'm going to do 1 or 2 as well. And also Dave is going to join in. So it's really something fun to look forward to. Yes. So thank you, Melissa. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. Okay.